every person that comes into my life, or any conflict that I have,
Mm.
this person is actually a teacher in my life, and
Yes.
they're here for some greater defined purpose, for my
Yes.
soul learning and lesson, to actually learn something from this person, or whether it's like past programming from,
Mhm.
from our very impressionable subconscious age from 0 to 7, where we kind of get all those emotional triggers stored.
100. Yep.
So especially with NLP, in the sense we can actually, it blew my mind to actually realize this, but we can actually, um, learn where these subconscious programming has
Yes.
come from,
Yes.
and actually change the past. And you talked a little bit about it at the start, that timeline therapy. Like, what,
Yep.
this just blew my mind. How does that actually even work?
Yes, it's an interesting experience. So, without going too woo into the science of it all, because it's quite complex, effectively think about it like this. For the first 7 years of your life, in fact, it even happens while you're in utero. So for our little daughter right now that's in Ash's
Mm.
womb, she's starting to pick up. So from this age right now, she can hear us. She can feel when I'm touching Ash's belly, for example. She's got those sensory awarenesses, and obviously the body and the mind connection with the mum and daughter in this case, or mum and son could be as well. Is obviously directly intertwined, right? So for that first 7 years, the child's subconscious mind, there's no separation between conscious and subconscious for the first 7 years. It's all just one. And effectively, what you're trying to do is just take on board as much storage of data as you possibly can, so that after 7, you're in a position to pattern recognize friend from foe, love from hurt, so to speak, and then you can sort of gravitate to the people that you're going to naturally, intuitively feel safe with, and the ones that you won't, you'll move away from, right? So it's just a safety mechanism.
Mm.
So imagine you've got like a couple of terabytes full of storage there. Then after 7 years old, you develop what's known as a critical faculty. Effectively, it's almost like a bouncer at the nightclub that says, "Hey, you can't get in. You haven't, your dress standards are not up to scratch, right? Or you don't know the person who's the manager inside. So no, computer says no." So after that point in time, there's a friction point from new ideas to what you've already stored subconsciously. And so in that experience, you will have stored any emotion that you've got, but particularly every substantial or significant negative emotion, positive or negative emotional event. And so just to give you an example, most people can't remember what they did on September 10th, but most people remember where they were on September 11th. They'll remember when they heard about the Twin Towers, right? It's a substantial experience in people's lives. Or your wedding day, for example. You might not remember really what happened the day before or the day after or even a month later, right? But you remember what happened on your wedding day because it's a significant emotional event. So anytime something significant happens, we store that because the brain goes, hey, this is an emotion. It applies meaning. There was significance. This might be important for me to pattern recognize later. And this is what develops in terms of a gestalt. So I want you to think about it in terms of like a string of pearls, right? You got a string of pearls. You've got all the pearls on a string or a strand. If you were to hang them upside down, you chop off the bottom, all of them would fall off, right? Because they're all stacked together effectively on the same strand. Well, the same thing happens in our minds subconsciously. I want you to almost think about it like you've got a filing cabinet for every emotional experience, right? There's a filing cabinet for anger. There's a filing cabinet for love. There's a filing cabinet for gratitude. And often you'll notice this experience when you do a meditation or a visualization exercise. If you ever try to do a gratitude process, it's like as you think about one thing in your life that you're grateful for, your brain automatically connects to another random experience. And you can, if you train yourself, just go down almost like memory lane, right? And you can sort of get lost in that experience because it's almost like a spider's web of all of those emotional ranges. So we plot it in a linear way, which is known as Gestalt therapy, timeline therapy. In effectively what we do is we go, great, well, let's imagine that in your stream of life from utero to now, or even past life, we can use this tool to go past life
Mm.
regression. You might have experienced 70 experiences of anger, random, but let's say 70. If we release anger now, great, but you've still got 69 references of anger. So it helps, but it's really doing very little. But if we can go back to the very first experience of anger and we can unlock, as you mentioned before, Crystal, everything in our life comes at us for a positive reason. And it's almost like the people in our lives there are teaching us a message. So if anger was there to teach us a lesson, it's like, hey, you responded with anger because we wanted you to learn something, then that lesson should apply to all of the other experiences of anger in our life as well. And if we don't acknowledge it, we'll just keep repeating anger until we learn that lesson. So we can go back through almost like a visualization meditation process. We can go back to that very first experience, learn. And when we take on board, we're taking on learnings and lessons for ourselves in the future. And there's a variety of obviously NLP and hypnotic language that we put into this process. We take on board the learnings, we associate colors and sounds, then we embody those then. And then as a result of that, that changes the full ritual, but we then change the history of time. And you can use this process to go past lives. So we've had people go fucking way back, but most of the time it's within this lifetime, somewhere between 0 and 5. It's normally the first exposure and experience, because everything that you experience is a learned experience. It's a learned experience. So, anxiety and depression and anger, these extreme emotions, particularly negative, are not naturally occurring states. They are modeled experiences and states, or even in many cases, clusters of emotional experiences and states. And so if we can unpack them and release them, it becomes enormously powerful.
Wow, you explained that so beautifully, and it's so interesting. I've had past life regression and these NLP techniques done on myself, and to actually have the subconscious awareness come up of my learnings and lessons in a past life, and realize that because I haven't learned those lessons and because I haven't actually acknowledged this imprint on my soul, now I'm having these reoccurring emotions, or I'm having this reoccurring physical disease in my body because I haven't learned these learnings and lessons. So there's so much power in actually recognizing these emotions, taking these learnings and lessons from them, as opposed to this this being busy and this distraction and this avoidance.
Honestly. Yeah, 100%.